If you are here, you might be navigating a journey where menopause and PTSD are both playing a role in your life. Whether you're experiencing menopause yourself, or you're supporting someone through menopause, or you're experiencing PTSD and supporting someone through menopause, you are not alone. It's okay if you're feeling overwhelmed or just not sure how to help each other through it. I've been there. For those of you experiencing menopause, the hormonal swings and the physical changes can feel consuming. And if your partner has PTSD, it can add layers of complexity that you weren't prepared for. And for anyone dealing with PTSD, I see you too. The triggers, anxiety, and flashbacks can feel like they're taking over your world, especially when your partner is also facing emotional ups and downs. See, ladies, when you're experiencing those ups and downs, that can be a trigger for your partner that has PTSD, because part of the PTSD is feeling uncertain about things. For someone who has PTSD, they like to find a place where they get comfortable. And when you start to change emotionally, it makes them uncomfortable. So we got that, right? Today we're here to acknowledge these realities, acknowledge the difficulties. And I want to offer some practical ways to manage this, because I've done this myself. I've had to do it myself. And it's a balance between taking care of yourself and taking care of your partner. Because when you're together, you have to take care of each other. But when your triggers are going off, whether it's you have menopause and PTSD, or you have menopause and your spouse has PTSD, it's a challenge. This isn't easy. It takes patience and support. With patience and support, you can find balance for yourself and each other. So we're going to start today, and we're just going to acknowledge the challenges right here and right now, because this journey is not easy, not by any figment of the imagination. Menopause itself brings physical and emotional changes, hormone shifts, mood swings, hot flashes, and even increased anxiety or irritability. It's a life stage that demands a lot of emotional resilience and understanding. Now, add PTSD to the mix. For those of you supporting a partner with PTSD, you might notice that certain moments or memories can trigger your partner. Sometimes without warning. Sometimes you don't even know what's triggering them. PTSD can lead to intense stress, emotional shutdowns, or even flashbacks, all of which make communication and emotional closeness harder to sustain. Have you ever been talking to your partner and they just all of a sudden they just close down and they're not hearing you anymore? It's the PTSD. I used to think, by the way, and even sometimes now, I still say to my husband, you're not hearing me. I know you're not hearing me. And when his mind goes to overwhelm, he can no longer hear me. He shuts down. What's even worse is that he doesn't even realize that he's done it. And I used to feel like it's intentional. So combine that with going through menopause and being emotional and wanting attention and wanting to be understood, right? It can be a recipe for disaster. So we're gonna talk about how not to let it become a disaster. Because you can see how his symptoms can exacerbate my symptoms. And it makes it challenging to be present for each other. And it's easy to feel isolated, like you're on a separate journey or you're on two different planets. But it's important to know that what you're both experiencing, it's real and it's valid. But it's finding the understanding for each other while you are experiencing your own symptoms. That's the challenge. So we have to remember to be compassionate to each other. And that's going to help you stay grounded and connected during the tough times. If you can just constantly remember to be compassionate. You have to be, one, open and honest. One of the best things you can do is to communicate openly, even if it's just acknowledging how you feel in the moment. If you're going through menopause, let's say, and you let your partner know when you're feeling extra sensitive, anxious, or low energy. Because when you let your partner know, it's not a shock to their system. You can help deter from the shock of you maybe withdrawing, and they don't know why you're withdrawing. And it's nothing personal, right? You just need time alone. Your emotions are a little bit out of whack, or maybe you're not feeling well. And when I say you're not feeling well, like maybe you're having a panic attack, right? Because part of menopause can be that sometimes you have palpitations and it leaves you feeling anxious. So your partner with PTSD when you're struggling or you need a bit of space, can help prevent misunderstandings. This is the beautiful side of it. Once they understand what's happening to you, you'll be surprised. Like my husband will come and check on me like 100 times. Like, are you okay? Are you feeling better? He will call. And that's part of the PTSD, because he wants to make sure now that I've told him I don't feel okay, then he wants to know, am I okay? So the other part of that is really important to let them also know when you are feeling okay, because that's helpful to them, because at that point he can stop worrying. That compassion will come out as long as they're aware. It's when you're not feeling well and you just withdraw and you're not saying anything, then their mind starts to race. I hope this is making sense to you. One of the next things that you could do is it's helpful to set up routines. Now, I noticed that my husband has a lot of routines. This will help support each other during difficult times. For example, when one of you feels overwhelmed, maybe you can create a timeout routine where you step away for a bit to breathe or calm down. We have here kind of code words that we use, or code phrases for him. Like if we're talking and all of a sudden he says, I want to go to bed and I'm tired, I need to go to bed. It's that he can no longer process what I'm saying. He's unable to process. So at that point, I will give pushback to let him know that, hey, oh my gosh, like my feelings, I feel like I'm still not being heard. But then you do it with compassion, because you still want the other person to understand how you feel. But you, as the other person that's dealing with the person who has PTSD, like I am dealing with my husband who has PTSD, I need to find compassion for the fact that he just needs to shut down, and I need to allow it to happen. But being able to share with him that oh wow, this made me feel a certain way, and letting him know that I understand how he's feeling, so that the way I'm feeling doesn't leave him feeling guilty. Do you understand? Because that's the one thing you don't want to create in all this, is feelings of guilt. Because the person with PTSD already, when their symptoms are going off, they're in survival mode. So now adding guilt to that, it's not helpful for you and it's not helpful for them. That's just not a helpful strategy. The other thing you can do is to have reconnection activities, like sharing a glass of wine, going for a walk, planning a mini weekend together. These routines can help reset the connection between you, because when the one thing that I found is that when we pull away from the normal craziness of life, his mind isn't going off as much, he gets to rest, and we're able to reconnect in a way that sometimes gets hard in the normal hustle and bustle of life. The thing I want to talk about is mindfulness. And I talk about this a lot, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It's something both of you can practice together. Try simple grounding exercises like breathing deeply, counting colors in the room, or just holding each other's hands. I know a lot of times, like, it's just that touch is helpful. Stop all the words, stop all the talking, and just be there. Just being there for each other. It makes him feel safe and connected, and you will also feel safe and connected also. It's tough, ladies. It's tough. For my ladies out there who are going through menopause, this is tough. And this is probably a time where the going gets rough in the marriage, where people want to split up because that disconnection is happening. You're having trouble handling your own mood swings, and then now you're dealing with his mood swings. And this is a time where you just have to stay strong. And that's why I say that remembering to be compassionate towards each other. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is that because you will have times when you get upset with each other, and maybe you need that time out where you're not talking. I would suggest taking a time out and not escalating to yelling at each other, because that's not helpful for you in your emotional state through menopause, and it's not helpful for him or for you if you have PTSD or he has PTSD. It's just not, yelling is not helpful. But what I want to say is that even if you take a time out, and let's say you go for the evening and you don't talk to each other, I would say You can't go on for days and let this drag on. Whatever the issue is, you need to come to a resolution, because the disconnect is happening, not purposely, but because of the symptoms, right? So now you have to purposely connect. You have to make an extra effort to purposefully connect and not wake up in the morning angry at each other. Or if you're bothered, it's okay to say, yeah, I was bothered by this, and this is the way I felt, and I understand you. I understand how you're feeling, and at the same time, this is how I'm feeling. But that needs to happen in a calm setting. Definitely. Number 4 is big. Establish a support system outside of each other. Now, for me, this was big because I'm an introvert and I don't have a lot of friends. We naturally leaned on each other, and we didn't feel like we needed outside support. But finding a menopause or PTSD group, or going to therapy, talking with friends who understand, therapy is big. You need to have somebody else that gets it. And so that was something that I did for myself. First I had a therapist that I talked to about what was happening. And then I found an Ayurvedic practitioner that I went to help manage my stress, but it also helped me have someone to speak to whenever the going got rough. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be talking to family members. I had to cut out discussing with family members what was happening with him, because family is wonderful, but they can be biased, and they will be biased one way or the other depending on what they're experiencing. Because don't forget that if this is your partner, you're living with the person that has PTSD, right? So the family members don't live with them, but they still get to experience the symptoms. They experience when the person is triggered and they are withdrawing, or the person is triggered and they are avoiding, or they're anxious, or they can't cope, or they can't have the conversation. So maybe the family is feeling left out a little bit of that person's life. So going and discussing with the family member what's happening might not be the most useful for you, because they are experiencing what you're experiencing. So you need someone that is not in that experience with you, and who you can talk to, and who will give you unbiased advice. And having someone who understands PTSD and your menopause symptoms and understands the clash that's happening is pretty amazing, and can make a huge difference in your relationship. And not just that, like, you'll feel less isolated, as opposed to looking from the person who has PTSD to just understand how you're feeling, which when they are triggered, they cannot. They are in their own fields at that point. Having that person makes you feel heard, makes you feel understood, and then you can go back, and then you can deal with the relationship dynamics and trying to bring the connection in. I really hope that what I'm saying so far is helpful. This has been years for me dealing with this and figuring it out. So, for any of you, drop me a comment. Let me know like what you're experiencing, and maybe it's something that, I can talk about. Maybe it's something I've experienced and something I can help you with. And I can be that person that you come to when you are feeling like you don't have anyone else to talk to. I would love to be that person, because I understand what that feels like. So number 5 is respecting each other's individual self-care needs. And this was huge. My husband loves animals. If it was up to me, I wouldn't need to have a lot of animals in the house. It's just not me. But for him, we have a lot of animals. We have a mini farm, okay? And this was his therapy. And I told him, I said, I cannot help as much as you would like me to, because for me, this doesn't feel like therapy. It feels like work. But for him, when he's out there, he's taking care of the animals. This was his therapy. And so I had to understand, first of all, that this was his therapy. I had to understand the positivity that it brought into his life. Like, this was his self-care needs. This was his mental health care need. And embrace it and go with it. And then I help where I can, when I can, without overwhelming myself and being clear that doing too much of this for me would be overwhelming. So you have to be clear, but you have to understand their needs, because he has to understand mine also. And doing this is not just essential for your health and your spouse's health, it's essential for the relationship. For menopause, you have to prioritize activities that help you feel balanced and nurtured, like exercise, your hobbies. You have to have your own hobbies. That was the other thing for me. That was amazing. Why do you think I created this channel? My husband wants nothing to do with this channel. Basically, this is my thing. And so having this hobby helped me have somewhere to focus my energy and something to pour my passion into, as opposed to waiting for us to connect and just ruminating on that. Like having something else helped us both. It has helped us both. Because when you have your own activities and hobbies, you feel nurtured. And for your partner with PTSD, it might mean having a quiet evening routine. Now, this was huge. This was huge for us. Wow. This was really huge for us. My husband is early to bed and early up in the morning, right? So I've adjusted my routine to meet his needs. Now, occasionally, I'm just me. So you're still gonna be yourself, and you're gonna have times when you're gonna ask them to step out of their routine, and maybe occasionally he can do it for me and do it with me because he loves me, but his routine is his routine. He needs to go to bed early. He needs to rest, because understand something about PTSD. First of all, you're not in his mind, and so you don't know what has triggered him throughout the day. He goes to work, he's out interacting with people. It's hard to say what the triggers are that he encountered that day. When the PTSD is triggered, his mind is automatically running. It's off to the races. He needs that downtime. And so having a hobby allows me to have something that nurtures me when he needs his downtime. Because I hope I explained that a little bit better. And number 6, which is the last thing that I'm going to talk about today, is you have to practice patience and remember why you're a team. Remember that both PTSD and menopause take time, patience, and a lot of grace. And think about it this way. You're going to have hard days and you're going to have good days. You're going to have days when you're challenging to connect and communicate, and that's okay. And you're going to have days where the communication is wonderful. And one other thing I want you to remember, think about, ladies, because you might have your own mental health issues that you're dealing with also. Eventually, you'll go through all the menopause symptoms until you come to the end and you've reached full-blown menopause, right? There's an end. PTSD has no end. PTSD can be managed. They can, with therapy and things like that, but there is no end to PTSD. Your mental health, like your depression or anxiety or whatever it is that you're going through, can be managed, but sometimes there's not an end. There's a pause, and then there's a management of it, and there's doing work. There's a lot of work that goes into managing this. So you have to remember, during the times when your communication isn't going well, when things seem kind of mucky, everything's disconnected, you have to remind each other what brought you together. Remind yourself. These are the times where, when you're the most disconnected, these are the times when you need to remember to tell each other how much you love each other. Because you are both doing your best in a tough situation. And you know that you love each other, right? But sometimes we're looking for that connection. And when you're going through menopause, the connection's not always going to be there. The sex isn't always going to be there. You're not always going to feel like it. He's not always going to feel like it. But when you remind each other that you love each other, and you remind each other why you're there, and you have some activities or goals that you set with each other for the future, that's one other thing. But that's really going to solidify the connection when the emotional part doesn't feel like it's there. So I'm not going to keep going on and on. I'll be making more videos. I want to thank you for being here with me today. If you're managing PTSD, menopause, or both, know that your feelings are real and you're not alone. Supporting each other through these challenges is no small task, and it takes courage, patience, and sometimes just a lot of breathing. Yes, deep breaths. You got to breathe through those difficult times. So I want to remind you to take it one day at a time, celebrate the small wins, honor each other's experiences, and above all, be gentle with yourselves. I understand. You both deserve compassion, understanding, and love, not only from each other, but from yourselves. Until next time, remember, you're doing the best you can, and that's more than enough. Take care of yourselves and each other. Peace and love.